عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام.
الحمد لله حق حمده، وأصلي وأسلم على نبيه وعبده سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تامة كاملة عامة شاملة يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين، وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبع خطاه واقتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. اللهم آمين. Dear brothers and sisters, it's a pleasure to be here, alhamdulillah, with you once again in this beautiful masjid, this beautiful building, which for me has an emotional link, an emotional relationship to this building, because even the shape of the building is a shape that we find in so many masjids in Spain, in Al-Andalus, where I come from. So, for example, if you go to the city of Toledo, you will find the masjid of Bab al-Mardoum, next to a huge gate of the city of Toledo, which has the same shape. Sadly, later it was converted into a church, but now it's a beautiful museum that people from all around the world come to visit and see. If you come to, for example, other cities such as Granada, for example, within the Alhambra, you're going to find masjids with this shape, subhanAllah. So I come from the land of Spain, the land of people like Shabtun, Yahya al-Laythi, that went to Medina and studied under our great Imam and our great scholar Malik ibn Anas, rahmatullah alayhi, and they brought the madhab, the school of the Maliki madhab, to Al-Andalus in the 8th and 9th century. I come from the land of, you name it, Ibn Rushd, the land of Ibn Hazm, the land of Al-Qurtubi, the land of people like Ibn Pashkwal, who commented the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the land of Ibn Barrajan, who has beautiful books about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have thousands of scholars, scientists, different people that specialize in different fields of knowledge, Islamic knowledge, natural knowledge, that brought this light to not just Europe, but the whole of mankind. So alhamdulillah, this history cannot be forgotten. This history of Muslims, this is our history. Even if we are from Malaysia or from China or anywhere in the world, this is part of our identity, part of our heritage, part of our history. The last time we talked about how Islam entered Al-Andalus and how there are so many misconceptions pertaining to how Islam reached these lands. Some people think it was an invasion when it was a treaty, and we talked about that. But I would like to focus on 2 points, very important ones. Some people think that the fall of Al-Andalus, happened in 1492 with the fall of the last fortress, the last city, which is Granada. And this is quite wrong. The fall of Al-Andalus began 400 years earlier. The fall of Al-Andalus began especially with the fall of the city of Toledo, which was the capital of the Gothic kings before the coming of Islam. It's a beautiful, huge city which is in the center of Spain. Actually, the city of Madrid, which is the capital of Spain nowadays, was built about 80 kilometers north of Toledo, just to defend Toledo. Madrid was a small stronghold in order to defend Toledo. It was not meant to be a big city, just a military outpost to defend Toledo. And then Madrid fell around 1085, and shortly afterwards, Madrid also fell in 1085. What happened is that with the fall of Toledo, all the Muslims in Andalus, especially their kings, started sending letters to the king of Morocco, who is Yusuf ibn Tashfin, rahmatullah alayhi. If you don't know this man, you should research about this man, Yusuf ibn Tashfin. At the age of 80, he came with a huge military army to Spain and advanced until they reached the city of Toledo and Madrid, and huge battles took place, especially the battle known in Arabic as Ma'arakat al-Zallaqa, the Battle of al-Zallaqa. It is known in the Spanish language as La Batalla de Alarcos. Okay, in this battle, they retained for another 400 years the remaining cities and in Al-Andalus. Actually, about 200 years later, in 1212, 1212, there was another battle against another dynasty, which are not the Almoravid. The use of Tashfin is from the Morabitun, against another dynasty that came afterward, which is Al-Muwahhidun, the Almohads. And the king was Muhammad al-Nasir. And Muhammad al-Nasir lost that battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. It was 200 kilometers south of Madrid in an area called Las Navas de Tolosa. And when it was lost, they conquered another city called Jaén, which is a major city. And from Jaén, the ruling family, one of the main families of the city, fled and they went to Granada, the family of Banu al-Ahmar. With the coming of that family from Jaén, 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers to Granada, they founded the Alhambra, the Al-Hamra in Granada. That gave name, from their name, Banu al-Ahmar. And if we look at these, motives we have here at the masjid, at the center you will find a fruit. It's like a fruit with seeds. And that fruit is a pomegranate. Pomegranate, and in Spain, pomegranate is Granada, the same word as the city of Granada. It is here present with us, subhanAllah. So you have so many elements that remind us of this forgotten history of Muslims in Spain. However, with all this going on in the 11th century with Toledo, the 12th and 13th century, people were thinking that the world was crumbling down. People actually in their poems, especially Arondi, who is a poet from Ronda, in nowadays near Malaga, he has a very known poetry called Risa al-Andalus. He was weeping the falling of Al-Andalus in a beautiful poem. He was talking about how the world is coming down, the world is ending for him. But at the same time, when Islam was retreating, shrinking in the south of Europe, Islam was reaching Malaysia. At the same time, it was retreating from one part of the world and expanding in another part of the world. Now, the people in Andalus, they had no idea what's going on in Malaysia, Asia, in this archipelago in the southeast of Asia. They had no idea. There was no way the news was going to reach them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His own plan. So in Malaysia, we are talking about the beginning of the 12th century with the conversion of the king, the Sultan of Qadah. Now Islam entered officially Malaysia and started expanding, especially in the port cities of Malaysia, especially with the coming, before that even, in the 11th century, with the coming of a lot of merchants from India and even from Yemen and other parts of the world. That's the first contact that, alhamdulillah, the beautiful people of Malaysia and Indonesia had with Islam. So imagine, subhanallah, what was going on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was taken from us because of our faults. Actually, I don't want to expand too much on this, but actually this was because of the Muslims, the foreign of Al-Andalus. Why? Because when they were united under the same ruling of a caliphate, and then the emirate with the Abdurrahman the first, Abdurrahman the second, the third, their son Hisham, etc., that ruling was unified, and the last kings and the last leaders of Al-Andalus, for example, the very known Al-Mansur of Al-Andalus, they were expanding in a very unprecedented way. But then they divided and they fragmented into what is called the Taifa kingdom, which is a very unknown period of Al-Andalus here probably. But in Spain, the Taifa is even an expression that shows and means in Spanish nowadays. In Spanish, it means division. If I want to tell some people that are divided among themselves in Spanish, I say, parecéis reyes taifas. You look like Taifa kings, like the kings of Muslims within that period, starting from the beginning of the 11th century. The beautiful city of Medina al-Sahara, outside, just 10 kilometers outside of Cordoba, was completely destroyed, brought down to rubble. Why? Because of this onslaught going on between brothers, subhanAllah. So that kind of war between brothers brought down this kind of coalition, not just from Spain, not just from the king of Castile, who's Alfonso VIII, and then especially Alfonso the VIII, but also the king of Navarre, the king of Aragon, even kings of France, of Germany. They sent their knights and their soldiers in order to unify against the Muslims in the first crusades. The first crusades happened on the soil of Spain before they were exported to the Middle East. So that was going on there. But alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fath in another part of the world. Just like when, for example, Baghdad fell under the Tartars and the Mongols, in the 13th century, mid-13th century, people thought it was the end of the world, the biggest capital in the Islamic world under the Abbasids. But at the same time, Allah had a plan, because from that genocide that happened in Baghdad, Allah brought the Ottomans from them. They converted to Islam. They entered Islam. And from then came the Ottomans. They founded the Ottoman Empire and reached Constantinople, which is nowadays Istanbul. So the message is that we do not have to fall into despair. لا تيأسوا من روح الله. Don't have desperation. Don't forget about the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see a very sad predicament in very different parts of the world nowadays, especially concentrated nowadays with the genocide in Gaza. But that shouldn't push us to lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we are in the best of hands, the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. History is the plan of Allah in the making. So we need to have this complete tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we need to study history and see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, study history not as the local thing, the history of Spain, the history of Malaysia, study history in a universal, global manner, and see what was going on at the same time, same period in history, and you'll see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had lutf, had this gentleness with his ummah, and this ummah is marhuma, this ummah is under the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I come from this land where nowadays we have 2.5 million Muslims in Spain, with so many various challenges and projects and different, inshallah, struggles to bring our children knowing Arabic, knowing the Quran, knowing the religion of Islam. So we're struggling, we're doing our best, inshallah ta'ala, in that region of the world, and we need the help, inshallah, of our brothers and sisters, not just in Malaysia, but in the rest of the world. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you, your fasting, your prayers. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يتقبل منا صيامنا وقيامنا وأن يبارك لنا في شهر رمضان. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يرحمنا ويعفو عنا ويغفر لنا ويرحم والدينا وموتانا وجميع المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا ضعفاء فقونا، وإنا أذلاء فأعزنا، وإنا فقراء فأغننا، وأغننا بحلالك عن حرامك، وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم خذ إلى الخير بنواصينا، واجعل الإسلام منتهى رضانا. اللهم آمين. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين، وجزاكم الله خير.